Hi guys, what's up? Well, back once again for another fight card prediction. We're going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night 110 from Auckland, New Zealand, as Derrick Lewis faces off against the Super Samoan Mark Hunt in the main event there. Overall, the card is going to be one of the weakest cards of the year without a shadow of a doubt. But there'll still be high points every time the UFC seems to go down under to Australia or New Zealand. There's always good talking points, there's always good finishes, there's always good fights, and I fully expect that here, even though it is lacking some names, and the newcomers that are coming in here don't rate very highly. Overall, last night UFC 212, a really fun card throughout. I thought it was a really good card. We saw a new featherweight champion, undisputed featherweight champion. Max Holloway was just incredible. His adjustments halfway through round 2 and into round 3 was unbelievable, and the finishing sequence with his shots on the feet to put Aldo down and then just dominate him down in there, incredible. To see, went 9-3 my picks for UFC 212, so happy with that. Moved up to 8th in UFC Pick'em, so I'm coming for that top spot. That's the goal, to try and get as close to that as possible. Having a very good run in that, so I've got another 6 months to really dial down on that. As always, I really want to thank you for all your support. The amount of people that have subscribed this year, the amount of people that are just talking fights in the drop down box, liking the video, that's so appreciated from myself, so thank you so much. We're going to get into this card. I'm not going to try and take too much of your time, but I seem to say that every video, and then I seem to kind of overrun, but you guys seem to like that. So but I will put timestamps in all the fights there if there's a certain fight you want to listen to my perspective on a little bit more than others. So starting off, down in the lightweight division, we have Thibault Gouti against Dong Kim, the Maestro. Really surprised when I saw that Thibault Gouti is still in the UFC. There's been cuts since then, and this guy's lost 3 in a row. He lost to Timo Pacquiao very, very quickly in London. I thought he showed a half-decent showing of himself against Olivier Aubameyang. Still got stopped in that one in the 3rd round, and then he got put to sleep by pillow fists Chad Laprise. So very surprised he's still in the UFC. Not a great really fighter. It's nothing really stands out from him, and at least in his opponent Dong Kim here, I think he shows a little bit of tenacity. He shows kind of a lot more will to win the fight. I've seen Gouti in some positions where he gives up a little bit too easy, and I just think that he's open at times. I think he gets tired, and he's very, very open from there on out. What I expect from Dong Kim in this one here is takedowns. In his win over Brendan O'Reilly, he scored 4 takedowns. He passed into more dominant positions a few times. Didn't really strike too much, which I thought he could have done more to open up more positions on the ground to move into better positions. But he did enough to win that one. Brendan O'Reilly is not a great fighter. Thibault Gouti is not a great fighter. These are these fights that could really go either way, but I'm going to go with the person who I've seen more out of in the UFC, and that's Dong Kim. Gave us that war against Polo Reyes as well. I like a decision win there for Dong Kim. Moving on, we've got JJ Aldrich against Jeon, a newcomer to the UFC, 19 years old, 5-0. There's not a whole lot of tape out there on her, but what I did see is she kind of reminds me of Seo Hee Ham coming from Korea. That she just very efficient everywhere, but it's a young lady who's coming through into the sport, who's I think we'll find out more from in this fight than what we've seen in previous fights. She's not even the number 1 strawweight out there in Korea. The number 1 actually has signed with the UFC, and we will see her. I think it's a Singapore card next week, so looking forward to that. JJ Aldrich coming off a UFC loss against Juliana Lima. Lima's she's a big strawweight, and she showed that she was a lot stronger. She was just a little bit better everywhere. I'm going to go with a newcomer here. From what I've seen, she's got enough maybe on the feet. She's got faster hands, and may kind of mix up a little bit more. I say this is like a complete coin flip fight for me. I'm not really confident in the pick of the newcomer, but I'm going to go with her via decision. Chanmi Jeon via a 29-28 decision, but as I say, there's not a hell of a lot of good tape out there on her, and what I did see was just enough to edge over JJ Aldrich, but she has the UFC experience, so she could get it done here, but I just don't. I'm not confident in going with JJ Aldrich. I like the newcomer here. Moving on to the Fox Sports 1 card, Kiichi Kunimoto against Zach Ottow. Kunimoto's been out for a long ass time. He was last in the UFC 3 years ago, and yeah, I wonder where the guy's been. Like UFC UFC, it was the Brandon Thatch card, wasn't it? He was on, yeah, 2 years. I'm thinking of the wrong guy. There's a guy coming up 3 years on this card later on. That's the guy I was thinking of there. He does have UFC wins over Luis Dutra. That was a DQ that he got a win there for illegal elbows. Daniel Sarafian, he got a lovely submission victory there, and he got a split decision victory over Richie Walsh. Before that last loss to Neil Magny, who we've seen to go on to be a UFC top 10 welterweight. So that's not a bad loss on your record. I know no loss is good, but when you're losing to highly ranked guys, it's not a bad look whatsoever. Very, very awkward on his feet. Throws weird strikes, weird angles. Doesn't seem to have too much power, but he can be very, very early on. He can be dangerous. Zach Ottow, don't rate this guy all that highly, coming off that the loss, I should say, against what's his name again, Sergio Moraes, which he started off okay, but then Moraes is a decent fighter when he wants to put it all together, but Ottow is a guy I really don't see a hell of a lot out of. Of course, he's got the win over Josh Burtman, but we've seen what Josh Burtman is in 2017, and it's not a great fighter. I am going to pick him in this one. I think he's the more versatile fighter. I think he can mix it up a lot more than what Kunimoto can. I think he's got a better gas tank than what Kunimoto has. But it's another one of these fights that I'm literally not confident in whatsoever. Because Kunimoto maybe went away. He's coming back in shape. He's got new things. He's tried new things. I know he did have a pretty bad knee injury, I think, at one point in 2016, so maybe that's why we haven't seen him. But Zach Ottow is going to be the pick here. I think it's going to be another decision. I think it's going to be a very scrappy fight. I think Ottow has the more chance to finish the fight late on, but I'm going to go another decision win there. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go a finish for Ottow. I'm going to try and see if I can get a finish here. 3rd round finish for Zach Ottow. Welterweight division, Luke Jumeau against Dominique Steele. Now Jumeau's a UFC debutant here. And I've had a little bit of speaking with a couple of people that they've been they think that they're going to fade Dominic Steele here. And when I actually watched Luke Jumeau this morning, probably about 12 hours ago when I got from after UFC 212, I watched him and I was not impressed with this guy whatsoever. He's fighting guys with terrible records. Initially, when I watched his first fight, it was against UFC veteran Jake Matthews, who was at the time 2-0, I believe it was, and still a baby in the sport. And he came in there, couldn't stop the takedown against Jake Matthews. Now we've seen what Jake Matthews has turned out to be, a fairly solid UFC pro. But when I started watching the other fights there, he showed okay technique in the feet. He can land heavy when he plants his feet and uses angles a little bit. I've seen him against a Japanese guy, I think it was Moraga, I think his name was, hit him with a nice shot to put him out. But what I've seen consistently throughout the fights I've watched is that he can be taken down. Vic Gruich, former UFC vet, took him down twice in the first round, nearly got him down early in the second round before getting, to be fair, Jumeau went and knocked him out in the second round. I don't think he can stop the takedown, and with Dominic Steele, it's not a good UFC fighter. I don't think he's an overly good MMA fighter altogether, but the one thing he has got is he's got a lot of heart. He's got a great gas tank. He pushes the pace and he looks for the takedown, and he can do that. He did it in the Danny Roberts fight. I think he can push a lot more here, and I think he can get takedowns on Luke Jumeau. I've seen people say that Dominic Steele should be the underdog here. If he's the underdog, I'm probably going to end up betting him, and I shouldn't, because I shouldn't be betting on calibers of fighter like Dominic Steele, but I think this is a matchup that he can most definitely win. I like him to win here. I expect to see takedowns, not get lit up in the feet, and get another decision victory there. Pick's going to be Dominic Steele. Just don't like what I see out of Luke Jumeau. I could be completely wrong, which has happened many a time before, but I don't see it in the tape already. But maybe he will show something here in this matchup. But my pick's going to be Dominique Steele via decision. Flyweight division, John Moraga against Ashkan Mokhtarian. We'll start with a newcomer here. This guy is 13-1, trains out an Australian top team. I think he goes to Tiger Muay Thai a little bit as well. Not good. Not good. This is a fight to me that rings out a win. They're giving a win here to John Moraga. Mokhtarian looks absolutely trash. Now, I shouldn't really be saying that because he can make me look like an absolute fool by coming out here and beating a guy who fought for the title. Fought Demetrius Johnson, the best in that division. One of the GOATs, literally, in the sport now. But don't see much. The fighters that he's fighting that are terrible. And you've got to expect that down under and in Asia that you're going to fight some fighters that are not good with bad records as well. But I don't see anything out of this guy. He's kind of stocky for 125. I did see that he's got some pretty decent ground and pound. He kept a hold of the hand in one of his fights there and unleashed a lot of ground and pound. So he might be one of these physically strong flyweights there. I think that John Moraga, I know he's coming off that loss to Sergio Pettis. I think he's actually lost 3 on the bounce, if I remember right. Pettis, to be fair, I mean, he really pieced him up, used his striking and just his overall better game. Of course, he lost to Nicolau via split and he lost to Benavidez. And I think that Nicolau's a fairly decent fighter when we see him again. And Benavidez is one of the best in the division. I just think this is a win for John Moraga. If John Moraga doesn't win this fight, there's no way he should be wearing a glove that says UFC on it, pretty much, because I don't rate this Mokhtarian guy whatsoever. I think he can get a finish here. I'm going to go John Moraga via submission in round number 2. I just think he's a little bit too versatile everywhere. Better on the feet, a lot better, I think, on the ground. He can control the fight once it goes to the ground a little bit as well. So hopefully he mixes it up, and I think he can find a finish with that really half decent ground game that he's got there. But I don't like Mokhtarian at all. Moraga for the finish here. Damien Brown against Vinc Pichel is the Fox Sports 1 kind of main event down in there. Vinc Pichel, this was the guy that was coming back. Last fight was UFC 173, where that was the TJ Dillashaw card, I think, against Henry Brown. So that's been a long ass time that this guy's been out. And he is coming over 2 wins, 2 guys that aren't even in the sport anymore. Anthony Njokuani and Gareth Whiteley, with his only loss coming to Rustam Khabilov. Got some nice suplexes, I remember watching that. Decent striking. Just your run-of-the-mill kind of pro. Like a lot of the fighters actually on this kind of card. Nothing really stands out too much. Pretty intense guy, looking to come and scrap. And looking to just kind of throw down, have a really fun fight. I think he's going to get that with Damien Brown here. That fight with John Tuck was a really fun fight to watch. I personally scored it for John Tuck. I thought he did a little bit more, but I couldn't, to be honest, I couldn't really argue with the Damien Brown scorecard. Had a beautiful knockout at Cesar Arzamendia at UFC 201. I like this fight for Damien Brown. I think Pichel's going to want to come out and grapple with this guy, but I think that Brown's an overall a really good pro, really tough guy, and it's just going to be there over the 3 rounds. I think Pichel might come out strong, but maybe kind of fade throughout the fight. I think that Damien Brown's just going to be there, and it's going to be a really close scorecard. And I think that Damien Brown can just do enough. I think it's going to be one of these 29-28s that people might be a little bit pissed off about. But I like Damien Brown in this one. I'm going to go for him to win that 29-28 decision there for the win. Moving on to the main card. Featherweight division, Alexander Volkanovski against Mizuto Hirota. Really impressed with Alexander Volkanovski in his UFC debut against Yusuke Kasuya. Tough guy. Puts everything together fairly well. Like the fact that he's dropped down from 155 to 145. This is division for him because he is a small lightweight. He will fit right in at featherweight down here. And he's got a really good matchup. I think Hirota, anywhere this fight goes, Volkanovski definitely has the more superior I think he's better everywhere. I think wherever the fight goes, he can be very, very comfortable. I think he's stronger than Hirota. Hirota likes to get takedowns and control you down there. I think if Volkanovski can kick him off and get to advantageous positions to unload strikes, look for submissions as well. I just think that Volkanovski is going to use the brute force, take this guy down, and pretty much like his first fight in the UFC, and kind of force a finish from there. It's actually one of my most confident picks. It's probably my most confident pick, if I'm being honest with you. Alexander Volkanovski via, I might go a TKO victory at the end of round number 1 or the very early round number 2. Like what I see out this guy. I know he's facing a guy with a lot of experience, but yeah, Volkanovski TKO end of round number 1, number 2. I'll go round number 2 just for the specifics. Flyweight division, great fight. Tim Elliott against Ben Nguyen. This was supposed to be Joseph Benavidez against Ben Nguyen, which I thought was going to be a close fight. This one here, I see Tim Elliott just being too scrappy and just awkward. Tim Elliott's a really like an awkward motherfucker. He showed that in the fight with DJ. Any fight that you watch of him, on the show, the tough show, just awkward guy, hard to really plan for. I think he's moved some of his camp out to Las Vegas as well, so he's been out there using some of the camps out there, so looking forward to seeing him again. Last fight against Louis Smolka, I had none of this, or very little of this guy on DraftKings. If you had this guy on DraftKings, he had like 130 points. It was fucking nuts. In fact, it was probably more than that, I think. But yeah, I like Tim Elliott. I think he has to take this to the ground. I don't think he wants to stand with Ben Nguyen. Ben Nguyen is technically the better striker, where Tim Elliott kind of wings more of his punches more than anything else. I think that Elliott's going to find takedowns. I think early on, I think Nguyen could be in maybe, I think he could possibly win the first round, but I think as the fight goes on, I think he's going to tire himself out trying to stop the takedowns, just kind of the awkward grappling that Tim Elliott brings here. I like a decision victory here for Tim Elliott, maybe even a late submission. I'm going to go a decision though. Tim Elliott via a decision. Light heavyweight division, Jeon Cutelaba against Henrique Silva, Frankenstein, Frank Waston, whatever the fuck you want to call this guy. I thought when he came into UFC, he looked okay, did Henrique Silva, but I think we've showed that the guy really has no gas tank. He showed that in the Paul Craig fight. He had nothing there, and he definitely showed that he's got very little grappling credentials against Jordan Johnson. Now, Jordan Johnson is a very good grappler and wrestler himself, but he is your kind of prototypical one-round fighter as Henrique Silva. I know that he finished Wilson and Christensen. I think it was one was in 1 round and the other one was in the 2nd round. So I just like Cutelaba here. The guy throws heat. I think he can have that power later throughout the fight. And I just think that he will find the chin and really put a beating on Henrique Silva. I think I'm going to be playing this guy quite a bit in DraftKings. I think he can get a finish. Hopefully he's fairly cheap, but I can see him probably being one of the maybe kind of 8-5 guys round there, so I'm kind of looking to play him. He is coming off a loss to Jared Cannonier, where he had his spots in that fight, but Cannonier was just a little bit too well rounded. I like Cutelaba in this one. I'm going to go a late 2nd round TKO victory there for the guy from Moldova and Cutelaba. Lightweight division, we've got Dan Hooker against Ross Pearson. Like Dan Hooker moving up to 155 here, I think this is it's going to be more beneficial for him not having that big weight cut and probably fighting more at his natural weight. Ross Pearson, I think, is a little bit on the out of the sport. I thought when I was watching the fight live against Stevie Ray, like somebody scored that card for that fight for Stevie Ray, for Ross Pearson, which was BS, like 30-27 as well, which was weird. But he's definitely fading. The speed's not there as much. He never had that much output in the fight against Stevie Ray, and that was, both guys were kind of like that. But he's a little bit slow at the shot there. He's taking more damage. I know he's losing to better guys like your Masvidal and your Brooks, but I like Dan Hooker in this one. Don't know why. I'm a little bit. I want to pick Ross Pearson, but I just think that Dan Hooker fighting in New Zealand, he's gonna really be scrappy, looking for the win here. It's hard to really say if he can stop Ross Pearson. I don't think he can. I think on the feet, Ross is definitely the better guy. I think the Hooker can maybe mix it up a little bit more. Want to pick Ross Pearson, but there's something pulling me towards Dan Hooker, so I'm going to pick Dan Hooker via a decision. Can see it being close possibly, but Dan Hooker to win in his native New Zealand. Middleweight division with Derrick Brunson against Dan Kelly in the co-main event here. Now, I will hold my hands up with Dan Kelly. As I probably said in the last fight with Rashad Evans, I've not been on this guy, and this guy is like, he's captain underdog. If like there's so many people that I know that have made so much money off this guy, and I'm not one of them. I just don't see it, but every time he proves me wrong, and the one time that I pick him, probably the one time that he loses here, so you can probably tell which way I'm going in this one. In that fight with Rashad Evans, I thought his striking looked brilliant. I think it was the perfect time to get Rashad Evans. He'd been off for a long time. That first fight down at middleweight, to be fair, Rashad Evans looked jacked. He looked in great condition. But Dan Kelly just mixed it up with his striking. Some beautiful trips that really surprised Rashad Evans there. And he got the biggest victory of his career. And got another big opponent here in Derrick Brunson, where if he wins this one here, he's going to jump into that top 10 of the UFC middleweight division. And who would have thought that back in Tough Nations when he was fighting like Chris Indich as well? So I've not seen it, but other people have. I think that Derrick Brunson is going to be looking to get back in the win column here. He has to get back in the win column. Coming off that, he won that fight against Anderson Silva. I picked Anderson. But I think it was pretty clear that he won that fight. I think he's very, very athletic. He's kind of like Rashad Evans in a way. He's very, very wild on the feet, but he has so much athleticism, a lot of grappling skills there. Is he going to be able to get Dan Kelly down? I don't know. I think he's going to have to come out quick here and really put Dan Kelly away, because if the longer this fight goes, the more I see going Dan Kelly's way. So I'm going to go for an early TKO victory. I'm going to go late round 1 for Derrick Brunson. And that could be another pick that makes me look really silly, because I'm really kind of anxious picking against Dan Kelly here, because I think he can fucking win this fight again. So, but I'm more confident in picking Derrick Brunson. I think he needs this win big. This would be a big win over a ranked guy. Get himself back in that position in the top 10 to get a decent opponent. I'm going to go Derrick Brunson via TKO round number 1. But if you're betting Dan Kelly, good luck, because the guy's made so many people so much money. And if you're on him, I hope he does it again, regardless of what my pick is. So Derrick Brunson, TKO round 1. And the main event of the night, we have Derrick Lewis against Mark Hunt. I've been originally I was going to pick Mark Hunt. And as throughout today, when I've been watching more of it, I'm just finding it really hard to pick Mark Hunt in this fight. I think that he has an opportunity to beat Derrick Lewis. I don't think, in my opinion, Derrick Lewis is not a good heavyweight. I think that he's there to be beat, and his 6-fight win streak in the UFC is like against guys like really not good guys, and he's came through a lot of trouble and had to come from behind. Victor Pesta, he's just been released by the UFC. Damien Grabowski, not a good UFC heavyweight. Gonzaga was already on his way out. Roy Nelson, personally, I thought he won that fight, but I can see why they gave it to Derrick Lewis. He landed the more shots. He did get taken down 7 times, but he wasn't down there that long. He's brilliant at getting back to his feet. Shamil Abdurakhimov was clearly 3 rounds down when he won that one, and then he beat Travis Browne, even though he got hurt and he had his ribs broke there. In that fight with Shamil Abdurakhimov, got taken down easily, but the guy really does get back to his feet very, very well. In the fight with what's his name, Travis Browne, he did get hurt to the body, which is something that maybe Mark Hunt's going to try and attack here. I just don't see it. There is a real large reach advantage in the way of Derrick Lewis here. The one thing, what I do like about Derrick Lewis is that no matter if it's over the 5 rounds, he keeps himself in it. He could be down, but he finds a way to win fights. And if you're finding ways to win fights, then it's hard. He's always in the fight. It's just, and he's got some big things there. If he gets top position here, you're not getting out. Plain and simple. I think that this fight could be. I can see Hunt winning rounds, but I can see he is coming off a really bad loss, like a really bad knockout loss. Is Mark Hunt, and that was less than like 3 months ago. I just think that initially I was going to pick Mark Hunt. Changed my mind pretty much on this fight. My boy Justin from UFC Pro Picks has put Travis Brown, I think it's 125 inside the distance. I think that's a fairly good bet for Derrick Lewis to win that there. I'm going to go a third round TKO victory there for Derrick Lewis. I think he's going to find a way. It wouldn't surprise me if he shoots for a takedown, and if he can get top position on Mark Hunt, he's going to take him out. I really want Mark Hunt to win personally, but I think that my pick's going to be Derrick Lewis, third round TKO victory there. So a little bit quicker than what I usually do. I'll be back for UFC Singapore next week. Fingers crossed. This baby of mine still hasn't come yet. We're into single figures now, so anytime within the next 8 days I'm hoping she gets here. But keep an eye out for that. I will try and get out even if it's late on in the week. Appreciate all the support and all the kind words. Thank you very much. You can follow me Will Martin MMA over on Twitter. Follow my bets, and good luck with this card and enjoy it when it comes around this upcoming weekend.